I never know what to do with my hands when I start videos like this because these are the videos that I do not edit. So they're gonna do whatever they want. I've moved all of my stuffed animals here. He's called Musa. If you're gonna ask me why he's called Musa, it's because A, he's a moose. B, Musa is the greatest figure in Islamic mythology, and do not fight me on that. And C, all of my stuffed animals are named after my siblings, and this is the one I named after my brother Musa. So I'm going to be holding him, and hopefully that will keep my hands as close to me as possible. Now, aside from that very big distraction that didn't need to happen, but my mind is kind of all over the place, I had zero sleep yesterday. I think it's just me adjusting again. There's definitely at some point I'm gonna have to address like different kinds of mental health things that happen in the ex-Muslim community and stuff like that. But today that is not what we are talking about. Today we are going to be covering trauma bonding and tribalism, which I think that is not talked about nearly enough as it happens. I think that those two things, well, when we first started, we first established that the ex-Muslim community is in fact a community. And I will keep reiterating that just because communities are dysfunctional does not stop them from being a community. We find each other through this label and we know each other. We are a community. And last week, or the week before, I'm not entirely sure when I uploaded that video, we had talked about safeguarding and navigating parasocial relationships, and I kind of want to link that to today's video. See, my hands, they're doing whatever they want. And I would just like to reiterate that this is not me proclaiming some I'm leaving the community, why I left the ex-Muslim community. That's not what I'm doing. I just think that there are things in this community that have happened to me, and a lot of this is anecdotal. And I want to be completely transparent about that. Things have happened, and I think that we need to be more open to criticism and allowing that flow of giving and taking feedback and being able to improve on those grounds. Like, I feel as though we constantly talk about criticizing other things, like criticizing religions, criticizing religious figures, criticizing religious books, and we're always on that end of like criticizing and justifying our criticism. Like, if we don't criticize this, then things will never change. It's kind of the same with this community and everything. If you do not criticize or point out the things that do not work in in anything, those things will go unchecked, and eventually it will become a mess that nobody wants to clear up. And if I'm being completely honest, I mean, I'm definitely going to go into a more personal experience later on in the video, which might make this quite a long video, so strap in for a long one. It's definitely made me question whether or not I want to be a part of this community, and that's very difficult for me because it's, leaving Islam was really, really hard for me, believe it or not. Being disowned by my family, all of the struggles that I went through, extremely difficult. And the ex-Muslim community, and like it was a big source for me to be able to sort of work through my issues, and find a cause that I truly believe in. And now I feel like I'm just shit posting, and I'm seeing a lot of people shit posting just for whatever purpose. Like, it's almost like, what's the word? Absurd. Like, it's just absurdity at this point. I'm not saying all of it is, but I definitely see a fair bit of it. But those are all topics for a different time. Like, I definitely want to cover mental health. I definitely want to cover inflammation and how we feed into that in this community. I definitely want to talk about, selective humanism and stuff like that. So those are things that are upcoming topics. But today, I would like to talk about trauma bonding and tribalism. It took me a while to get to that word. Sorry, my brain is kind of all over the place. What is trauma bonding? It's pretty much in the name. It is bonding on the basis of trauma. And it is something that I definitely have done over the last year. I've definitely made some very fast friends just because they were ex-Muslim. And shared a couple of poor experiences with it. Some of them hadn't experienced any ostracization. They were just ex-Muslim, and that was enough for me to be like, yeah, you're my friend. I have so much in common with you. Some more than others, and some of those I very deeply regret now. And it's something to be wary of, because whether or not we like it, a lot of people in this community are quite vulnerable. Be that because of the experiences with their family, be that because they've been extremely sheltered throughout their lives. People are extremely vulnerable in this community. We also have a lot of vulnerable minors in this community. And I don't think it needs to be reiterated that their safety should be paramount when talking about parasocial relationships and connecting with other people and how to be safe online. Not just, from our horrible families, but also from the people on the other side. Because there definitely have been instances of predatory behavior, of manipulative behavior, of abusive behavior coming from the ex-Muslim community. Am I blaming the whole community? No, I am not. I'm just saying that things like that exist, and it's something that we should be wary of, because whether we like it or not, and it's something that I experience quite frequently, is that people who are predatory and manipulative can sniff out vulnerability in other people, and they become latched to those people because they're vulnerable, and that creates like a codependent system, which is like a whole other thing. But the reason why I'm kind of bringing up trauma bonding is because, and this was something I discussed with some of my more longer term friends, is that over the last year, I feel like I made too many friends, and I've never been the kind of person to have like loads and loads and loads of friends. I up until like the beginning of last year, before I joined this community, I had like a very, very close-knit small group, I want to say of 4 or 5 people that I not even had regular contact with, just had like struggles with. And they like were there for me, and they understood me. It wasn't even that we had many things in common. It was just that, the environment kind of brought us together, and we like each other, and that's it. We're friends, And then last year, like, if you look at because I don't really use Facebook anymore, but I was using Facebook, and I stopped using Facebook because of how many people were requesting to be my friend. And no, I don't take Facebook friends to be real friends, just to make that uber clear for you who are waiting to just say something. But before I started this whole ex-Muslim thing, I had maybe like a total of 19 Facebook friends. And I used to use my account of I used to vlog on my Facebook because it was something that I enjoyed doing, and it was like a pretty closed system where it was just me sharing my life with my friends, because it was just like a fun way of me to do something stupid and them to watch what I was doing and hang out and chill, right? But that all stopped after like how many people sort of, I don't want to say love bombed, because I don't think that that's how it was meant. Love bombing is a manipulative tool, and I don't think that that's how it was meant. That's how it felt, like this overwhelming feeling of everyone loves me, which is a lot for someone who just did not understand love as a feeling until a few years ago. It's quite overwhelming. So when it comes to this deep attachment that you form with these people that you don't really have much in common with except for the trauma that you have gone through and the labels that you carry due to that trauma, it creates groupthink and tribalism. I've seen it said so many times. Like, anytime tribalism or groupthink is pointed out, that it doesn't exist in this community because we are independent thinkers, we left Islam and we don't want to do something else. But I personally have seen groupthink in effect, in full effect. Now, how do parasocial relationships, trauma bonding, how do these things link with tribalism and groupthink? Part of it is stan culture, part of it is simping, and listen, we're all on the internet, we're all guilty of it. But it is one thing to heavily stan somebody, like for example, I'm a big Rihanna stan, I love Rihanna, I will always love Rihanna. But if she fucks up, it's not for me to go and defend her fuck up, you know? Maybe I won't outwardly condemn her because I stan her, but it's a whole nother level to support her when she fucks up, which I don't think Rihanna's done in a while. Like, for example, the easiest example that I can think of is from today, right? I'm going to put it in very simple terms because it's about the issue and not about the people, okay? An adult bullies a 13-year-old online, says that he's a wasted pregnancy, calls him a little penis, you know, just very, very vile. And this person has a following. And when we look at something like that, it's pretty obvious, at least to me, for someone, maybe it's because I work with kids, maybe it's because I'm a decent human being, but you don't talk to a 13-year-old like that, because 13-year-olds are dumb. I hate to like break the news to you guys, for those of you who are like, no, he deserved what he came into an adult argument and he got an adult response. No, 13-year-olds are stupid. 13-year-olds just parrot what they've been taught. 13-year-olds aren't, like, their brains haven't even developed fully. Like, a human brain doesn't fully develop until it's 25. Until you're 25 years of age, your brain does not stop developing. 13 is such a young age to attack a child like that so viscerally because he said some mean shit about you or somebody else is ridiculous. Now, am I saying you can't clap back? That's not what I'm saying. Everyone knows I'm a petty bitch. Like, who am I to talk about anybody clapping back? But it's different. It's different when you make a sarcastic remark, like calling him a little boy, for example, is pretty sarcastic and pretty, you know, belittling. But at the end of the day, it's not the same as calling him a wasted pregnancy. And then, like, their parents were brought up in the argument. It was awful. It was awful. But today, I have had to explain to people that I thought were more decent than this, that talking like this to a 13-year-old is unacceptable. And the only reason I can think that I had to do that is because the person who committed the bullying act has a following. And the following doesn't want their icon or whatever to look bad. So they go out of their way to defend it. And it's honestly disgusting to me how far people will go to demonize a 13-year-old child to save the face of this other person who's like twice the age of him. Over twice the age of him, actually. It's ridiculous to me. It's absolutely ridiculous to me, and it's like the most recent, like it literally happened today, the most recent example of tribalism that I can think of. And then, instead of responding to the criticism, instead of apologizing sincerely because you did something shit, what you do instead is say, oh, people are using this narrative to manipulate you all. Into what? You bullied a 13-year-old. Like, there's nothing to manipulate there. Like, I didn't even need to add anything to that. You bullied a 13-year-old. Just say you fucked up and move on. Why are you adding, like, You know what? I'm the worst judge of character. I am the worst, and I will prove to you why I'm the worst judge of character in just a moment. But anyone who says that they hate drama and is constantly in it is not someone reliable. That's just my opinion. But someone who says, oh, I hate drama, I hate being in drama, everybody causes so much drama, but they are perpetually in drama, is unreliable. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with drama. I am perpetually in drama, you know, but I kind of enjoy drama. I think that drama is a very normal part of human life. It's what makes the world go round, in a sense. But there are people who sit on their high fucking diseased horse who will just sit up there and be like staring down at us lowly peasants squabbling over our bullshit and be like, oh, I don't get involved in the drama. But up there, they're like stirring all the shit. Like, they're perpetually in the shit. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, rant over in that regard. I want to give you some other examples of tribalism and groupthink that I have come across. So one of the first examples that I want to give, and I just want to say that when I posted the video that I'm going to talk about, a lot of people were saying in the comments that, oh, it's not tribalism to defend X. It's not tribalism to defend this person. It's just what happened, Faye. And I'm of course referencing the whole Alex O'Connor Mohammed Hijab debacle, where Alex O'Connor insinuated that Mohammed Hijab was threatening him. Now, I've posted my opinion on that. That's in a whole other video. I personally do not think that Mohammed Hijab was threatening Alex O'Connor. I think that Alex O'Connor deliberately misled his audience to believe that Mohammed Hijab was threatening him. And when I looked at the full context of the video, it just did not appear to me that Mohammed Hijab had threatened him. Because I put up that video, I think I'll go from the least effective things to the most effective things that happened to me. So the least effective things is that I lost subscribers, which I do that every day, right? Then it was people who were like, oh, I can't believe I supported you monetarily, and I offered to pay their refunds. And I gave them refunds. I was like, yeah, you don't want to be part of my content, you want your money back, that's fine, I'll give you your money back. And then the third thing that happened on that same day is that I was doxed. My workplace was leaked. That's not something that I put out publicly. Like, even if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I do not put the specific place that I work in on my LinkedIn profile. I tend to put the agency that I work through. It was not fun. But that is an example of the effects of tribalism. People have such a visceral hate for Mohammed Hijab that any word, not spewing hatred about him is seen as like, oh, you're going against everybody. You're going against everybody. You're like losing the plot, Faye. I also want to talk about, and we'll probably talk a bit more in depth about like mental health issues in a completely different video, but I also want to talk about my falling out with a certain person earlier this year. No, I will not be mentioning their names because fuck that person. When I fell out with this person, a lot of people decided that they were going to diagnose my mental health issues instead of take what I was saying for what I was saying. Occam's razor. The simplest explanation usually is the correct one. I think that's Occam's razor. I might be wrong. I put out a narrative. I originally did not even name this person in this narrative. They decided to out themselves, which, blame whoever you want, okay? It was a petty video, I admit. I put out this narrative, and instead of, having an opinion on the narrative, going away quietly, spewing your hate, people instead decided to say that I need to deal with my mental health issues, as if, like, me telling a story was representative of my mental health. Which it just isn't. I've told stories from the very beginning of my channel, and I think I made the very same snide remark back then that y'all love it when I roast people that you don't like, but the moment I roast somebody unnamed that you do like, it's like suddenly it's a problem. I'm sorry to break it to you, but everybody is entitled to criticize whoever the fuck they want, especially if they've been wronged by that person, especially if that person is genuinely just awful. And there are things that I later admitted that maybe I shouldn't have included in that video, and those things do not exist anymore, but I don't regret posting the video. I think that what I did was fully deserved. And you can agree, disagree, it's really not my concern. It just is what it is. Anyway, so that's my sort of breakdown on trauma bonding and tribalism. It is a thing that's prevalent in this community. There are people who have just left the community because they don't identify with a lot of the ideals that some of the bigger or more popular ex-Muslim personalities have, which often, I know that I tried to talk about this to Armin Navabi, but it didn't really translate very well. A lot of people who are ex-Muslims present themselves as quite liberal, but lean quite right. Like, quite right. And that level of conservatism, for someone who's quite centrist, like, I'm pretty apolitical, I just want to make that very, very clear, but I like having my freedoms and being quite independent. So as someone who is quite liberal, conservatism concerns me a little, considering that, Islam is a very conservative idea and so on. And there have been other issues as well, like the whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict. People, the overarching opinion seems to be that Israel is like the best thing on the planet, with no acknowledgement to what Israel does to Palestine. Like, am I saying that there's no back and forth? No. But people who have openly supported Palestine as ex-Muslims, you don't really hear from them anymore. They kind of just disappeared. And I think that this kind of toxicity, where it's like you trauma bond with these people and you don't want to let these people down, and then there's also this tribalistic mentality, puts people in a really, really difficult position of being like, do I say something? Do I keep it all in and just put on a face like I have for the rest of my life? Or do I just leave? And the simplest thing seems to be for people to leave and also lash out. Maybe it's just a thing that I've noticed. Maybe. But the last and final thing that I would like to share is, well, I've been sharing personal experiences throughout this, but the last part is particularly personal. Ever since I was disowned, and this is an extremely emotive part, so if you don't want to be a part of this, just click off. Ever since I got disowned, like, the void of not having family has really, really sat with me, and I'm at a place now where I don't feel like I'll ever have a family, in the sense where, we have like these big roast dinners or go on picnics, and you know, that white picket fence family that I feel like everyone has a different idea of, but it's essentially the same thing, where it's like a big, happy, loving family. Like, I've completely given up on that. And one of the reasons for me giving up on that is A, because my original family, which even though it wasn't loving at all, it was still my family. I got completely barred from them. My father, you know, actually tried to kill me, and that was like a very eye-opening moment for me, because I did not think that my father was capable of such a thing. And then I joined the ex-Muslim community, and I trauma bonded with a lot of people that maybe I shouldn't have trauma bonded with. And this taboo nature of whistleblowing, like it's such a taboo thing to whistleblow, which I find particularly problematic, because whistleblowing is like the best kind of feedback you can get, because it's anonymous. You know, somebody gives you feedback anonymously or like in private, and you fucking work on it. But there was such a taboo nature to it within this sort of ex-Muslim family that I had going on. Some statements that were particularly said to me, and this is something that I feel like people forget when they talk to me, is that when you say something to me, it doesn't sink in immediately, but it sits with me for like months afterwards, years even. There are some things that like my mum said in my childhood that have just never left my brain. Not because they were particularly profound or hurtful or meaningful. It's just things that were said to me that made me think. And some of the things that were said to me is, we have to support them, even if they're wrong, because they're one of our own. And when some people were trying to criticize some of the members of the ex-Muslim community who had a level of prominence, the same person said, tell your friends to show some respect. And on from that, this idea that me or anyone else criticizing someone from the community is thought policing or silencing or bullying, when these are the first people to shut you down when you say anything, is so unproductive. It's so not constructive, and it's toxic. Like, I know that's a buzzword at this point, and probably a pretty loaded one, but it's extremely, extremely loaded. And when it comes to, like, I've been working through this in therapy, and like, I definitely have trust issues, but my biggest trust issues aren't with other people. My biggest trust issues are with myself, because I hold myself to a very, very high standard, sometimes unrealistically high standard, and when I fuck up, it really makes me question if I'm even a capable human. And this oversight of letting someone so toxic into my life, it's made me like, I will never be clean. Just based on the things that they have done, just based on the things that they have told me they have done, the things that I've witnessed, the things that they have done to me, I will never be clean. It's as simple as that. And I never thought in a million years that I would be disowned so, like, in such quick succession. Now, needless to say, I did not have like 20 years of family time with these people, but these were people who constantly referred to us as family. And maybe I take things like that a little too seriously, I don't know. But family is big deal for me, you know? And even if it wasn't a disowning, that's how it read to me. That's how it felt, you know? Like the moment I decided I want to cut this person out of my life because they are toxic, because they are abusive, because they are manipulative, suddenly we can't associate with me anymore. We can't be doing that, because you've done the cardinal sin of just chatting, just talking. Every single person more or less knows why this happened in much more explicit detail than was ever portrayed online. Like, the stuff that I put online was like play stuff, sandbox shit, you know? The stuff that I related to these people who considered me family, and I considered family, maybe they didn't consider me family, but I considered family. They knew everything, or almost everything. There was one person who knew everything, and I am truly disgusted, honestly, by how belittled I felt whenever I talked about the abuse, the manipulation, the disrespect, as if I didn't know what those things were, as if I hadn't faced all of that throughout my whole life and I didn't know what I was talking about. It was such a poor and inappropriate response to my complaints, and it was only at the breaking point that all of it came out. And I'm not using that as an excuse, because again, I think that what I put out was completely deserved, honestly. Please be aware of who you make friends with online. It's as simple as that. Don't assume that just because people have gone through the same things that you have, that they will be your closest, nearest, dearest confidant, because you don't know who that person is. You don't know who I am, you know? Like, I get a lot of people in my DMs being like, oh, hey, like, I don't need advice, I just want to be your friend. And it's like, that's cool. But I'm kind of in a weird place with myself right now, first of all. And second of all, you don't know who I am. You don't know who anyone is online. That's what makes the online space particularly tricky to navigate. But just be aware of trauma bonding. Don't just make friends with people who experience the same shit as you. Make friends because you have similar interests. Make friends because you like that person. Make friends because you enjoy spending time with that person and they don't drain all your fucking energy. Not something I could say about some people, but I think that's one of the major ones, actually, is that when you spend time with them, you don't feel drained, you feel rejuvenated, you feel rested and well. That's a good way of telling if someone's a friend or not. And also, be very, very aware of tribalism and groupthink, because it is a real thing, and I'm tired of people saying that it isn't a real thing in this community. There are people who will dogpile you. There are people who will take things to the nth degree because you don't agree with ExMuslim, you know? Be wary of these things, and when it happens, call it out. Don't hide away, don't be afraid. You don't owe anyone your respect. You don't owe anyone your admiration and love. These things are earned and they can be lost. And if you lose respect for somebody, you do not need to hide it. The betterment of this community depends on criticism, and not just criticism from me. You know, I am the most flawed person that I know of. I do not want to be a moral arbiter, and I am not posing as one here. All I am doing is sharing the experiences that I've had over the last year that weren't particularly great, and I think could be improved with very, very little effort, and just haven't been. You know what I'm saying? When you see something shitty happen to you, tell somebody, or call that person out, because it's not okay to be treated like this. It's not okay for whole groups of people who have years of experience on you to treat you like this. And I don't know how many of you are aware, but I did some housekeeping on my Twitter, and I feel like I've left it long enough. Like, it's been about 6 months or something, probably longer, since the whole debacle with me falling out with this person happened. And I'm kind of done with that whole group. I'm kind of done. I did some housekeeping on my Twitter, and I'm already enjoying it 100% more. Cut your losses. If things don't work out, cut your losses. I know that's easier said than done. It absolutely has been for me. And try to do what best you can. I'm not gonna lie, like, a lot of the things that I've talked about, like right now, really made me question whether or not I still wanted to be a part of this community. Really made me question whether or not I wanted to be a part of this movement. And I really needed to sit with myself and figure out, or reestablish rather, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm doing this because I want to normalize leaving any religion, leaving Islam particularly because that's the one I have experience in, but leaving religion. And sorry, that's my phone. And I want to be able to create bridges between Muslims and ex-Muslims so we humanize each other. And so many bridges have been ruined that I tried to build. So many bridges have been ruined because of the groupthink, tribalism, and just toxic behavior of these people. I'm sorry that this video has been kind of a downer. It's just something that I've been feeling for a while, and there are a couple of other videos that will come out with this same sort of somber tone. If you have recommendations for what you want me to talk about, or if there's something you want to provide for me to talk about in terms of the ex-Muslim community and what can improve in it, let me know. Leave me a comment, DM me. Like, all of my shit is in the description below. I genuinely hope that you will have a wonderful evening, except for one fucking person that I don't wish anything good for, honestly. I'm trying to think if that's too harsh, and I genuinely don't think it is. Am I vindictive right now? Absolutely. I don't know why. I don't know why. Thank you for listening to me just spew verbal just stuff at you, and I will see you in the next video. I don't know exactly what the next video will be, but myself and some of our little crew that helped me with my channel stuff, we've been thinking about starting a podcast. I'm in the process of starting up a public Discord server for you guys to hang out in. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. And of course, I'm still working on my artwork and my comic book, which I feel like the artwork is coming to a close, but I need to put the dialogue and text and stuff into it, which I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that yet, but I'll figure it out. It's fine. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, whenever that is.